So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time, around 20 minutes. All right. The idea behind this lecture series is very simple. We want you to cover your current affairs on a daily basis because current affairs form a very important portion of your civil services examination. Around 40 to 50% of your exam, whether it's prelims or mains, is directly or indirectly related to current affairs. Therefore, covering current affairs should be a part of your daily routine. Now, the thing is that you need to cover your current affairs on a daily basis, but you cannot spend your entire day covering your current affairs or reading the newspaper. You need time for other parts of your UPSC syllabus as well, right? Therefore, for your facility, we have come out with this series in which we'll cover these current affairs, the current affairs for the day, important current affairs. Now, important from the perspective of civil services examination. These important current affairs shall be covered in this lecture in around 20 minutes, okay? And then you can spend another 20 to 25 minutes revising these current affairs, okay? So you can revise these current affairs from our PDF file for this lecture. This PDF file shall be shared on our Telegram channel. And where can you find our Telegram channel? Well, below this video in the comment section, we have provided a link for our Telegram channel. All you need to do is click on that link. It will take you to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download this PDF file. So 20 to 25 minutes of watching this lecture and another 20 to 25 minutes revising this lecture. You would have spent only 40 to 50 minutes, but you would have covered your entire day's current affairs. Then your entire day, you can do whatever you want. My advice would be that you spend your day preparing for civil services, but your entire day is free for covering other aspects of your UPSC syllabus. Okay, so make this lecture series a part of your daily routine. All right. Now let's take a look at the topics that I have shortlisted from today's newspaper, which are important from the perspective of civil services examination. So let's take a look at today's topics. Now, today's topics are few in number. We'll be only covering 3 topics. The reason for this is that yesterday, Donald Trump won US presidential elections. And the entire newspaper, whether it's Hindu, Indian Express, Print, they're all full of news related to US presidential elections. What would Trump do? How did Trump win? All about Trump. Okay. So the newspaper is filled with everything about these elections, everything about Donald Trump. Only a few news items were there in the newspaper which are important for us civil services aspirants. Okay. Covering Donald Trump's election is not important for us because questions won't be asked from that. All right. So only these 3 news items were mentioned in the newspaper which are of importance to us. So we'll be covering these 3 items. Okay. Number 1 is news related to Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Basically, Supreme Court came out with a judgment related to Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and it has reprimanded Enforcement Directorate for something. So what is that something? We'll talk about this. Then Union Cabinet has cleared PM-Vidyalaxmi Scheme, a scheme to make higher education affordable for all. Remember, it is a scheme for higher education, colleges and universities, and the aim is to make it affordable. Okay, so what is this PM-Vidyalaxmi Scheme? We'll talk about this. And because of Donald Trump's victory in US elections, the news about or debate about H-1B visas has come to the forefront. H-1B visas are given to foreign workers working in USA, right? And Donald Trump throughout his election campaign has been quite critical of America's immigration policy. So what would happen to these H-1B visas? Because majority of these H-1B visas are taken up by Indians. Okay, so what will be Donald Trump's decision on H-1B visas and how would it impact Indians? So H-1B visa issue becomes important for us, and that's why we are covering this in today's lecture. All right. Okay, so these are the 3 topics that we'll focus our attention on. Let's start the discussion with topic number 1, which is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Okay, now what was in the news? Supreme Court held that Section 197 Clause 1 of Code of Criminal Procedure Code will apply to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2. Okay. Now, what is this Section 197 Clause 1 of CRPC? So look, whenever a public servant is under allegations of any criminal offense, okay, and whenever investigation or prosecution of public servants for any criminal action that they committed is started, the section 197 says that government permission or government sanction should be obtained. Now, what does that mean? Suppose a public servant has committed a crime and the respective agency wants to prosecute that public servant. Okay. Now, before starting that prosecution in the courts, that particular agency would have to take government's permission. Okay, you cannot start the prosecution on your own. You have to take government sanction before prosecuting a public servant. Okay, so this is what section 197(1) of CRPC, it mandates prior sanction from government to take cognizance of an offense against public servant, and that applies to almost all criminal offenses. So whenever you are trying to prosecute a public servant for a criminal offense, section 197 of CRPC says that you have to take government permission. Generally, government gives the permission, okay? But that is a mandatory requirement as per CRPC. Now, recently, Enforcement Directorate started prosecution of a particular public servant without taking government sanction. Okay, that particular person put that matter in the court. That particular person said that this is against law. You have to take government sanction before prosecuting me, and the matter went to court. Okay, the ED's argument that section 71 of Prevention of Money Laundering Act, because that particular public servant was being prosecuted for violation of Prevention of Money Laundering Act. He was being, I mean, it was alleged that that person committed money laundering. So ED, Enforcement Directorate, was prosecuting him for violation of Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now the ED says that section 71 of PMLA actually trumps section 197. It overrides section 197. So as per section 71, we can prosecute that person and we do not have to take any government sanction. So this provision actually overrides section 197. Now, definitely that public servant did not agree with this contention of ED, but ED said that section 71 does not apply, or section 197 does not apply to Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It applies to all the other criminal offenses, but this section, this requirement of government sanction does not apply to cases related to Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Of course, the matter went to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has said that it does apply. So even if you are prosecuting anyone, any public servant, not anyone, any public servant for violation of Prevention of Money Laundering Act, then too section 197 applies. You need government sanction. Okay, that is the whole issue. That was what was in the news. But as civil services aspirants, we need to know what Prevention of Money Laundering Act is. Okay, so let's talk about PMLA. So it was a law passed by Parliament in 2002, which prevents money laundering. Okay, so it basically prevents money laundering. And if anyone has acquired wealth through money laundering and bought assets, then government has the permission to confiscate that property, confiscate those assets. Okay, and this power comes from Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So whenever it is found that a particular person laundered money and bought various properties or assets from that, then the government has the power to confiscate that property and prosecute that person for violation or for the crime of money laundering. Okay. Plus, this act also says that banks and other financial institutions should make or maintain records of all transactions committed by all individuals. Okay, so banks and other financial institutions should have records of financial transactions of all individuals. Plus, if they find any suspicious transaction which they feel is a transaction in a particular bank for money laundering, if they find any suspicious transaction, then they have to report that transaction to Financial Intelligence Unit of India. So under PMLA, banks have to report suspicious transactions to FIU. Okay, now look, in our country, laws are made by two institutions, Parliament and state legislative assemblies. Okay, but on what subjects can Parliament make law? On what subjects can state legislative assemblies make laws? Okay, that is provided in the Constitution. So Parliament cannot make laws on everything. Similarly, state legislative assemblies cannot make laws on everything. Parliament can make laws on a specific list of subjects. Similarly, state legislative assemblies also have a list of subjects on which they can make laws. All right. Now, these lists are provided in the seventh schedule of the Constitution. Seventh schedule has three lists: Union list, on which only Parliament can make laws; State list, subjects in this list are those subjects on which state legislative assemblies can make laws; and concurrent list, on which both of them can make laws. But there is also another article, Article 253 of the Constitution, which says that Parliament can make law on any subject if it is mandated by any international convention. Which means that suppose India signed an international convention, and to fulfill its obligations under that international convention, it has to make a law, right? But that international convention is related to a subject mentioned in the state list. So, by logic, by constitution, only state legislative assemblies can make laws on those subjects. Okay? But Article 253 of the Constitution gives the Parliament the power to make laws on matters mentioned even in state list if that is the obligation under any international convention signed by government of India. Okay? Let's suppose drugs, making laws on drugs is mentioned in state list, but India signed an international convention preventing drug trafficking. Okay, so in that case Parliament would have the power to make a law on that. All right. So money laundering is a matter which is related to law and order and police, and law and order and police are subjects mentioned in state list. But because India signed various conventions, international conventions related to money laundering, Parliament had the power to make laws on money laundering. Okay. Therefore, PMLA was enacted by Parliament under Article 253 of the Constitution, because Article 253 of the Constitution gives Parliament the power to make laws on matters which were agreed to by India in any international convention, or fulfill India's obligations under any international conventions. Okay. Now, which were those international conventions? Well, in 1988, India signed UN Convention Against Illicit Trafficking in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances. Okay. And these drug crime rings, or these drug criminals, actually launder money which they earn from drug trade. So this convention talks about preventing money laundering earned by selling drugs. Okay. So India signed this convention. So to fulfill India's obligations under this convention, Parliament had the power to make law on money laundering. Similarly, Financial Action Task Force was founded in 1989, which also obligated various countries to make laws on money laundering. Similarly, India signed UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime of 2000, Palermo Convention. Again, organized criminals launder money. So this convention also talked about preventing money laundering, and to fulfill India's obligations under these conventions, Parliament had the power to pass PMLA. Now you get it what Article 253 is? So it gives Parliament the power to make laws on all subjects, okay, provided they are part of India's obligations under various international conventions. All right. Now we need to know some other facts related to PMLA. Okay. First of all, under PMLA, some specialized agencies were created, okay, which had the power to prosecute or take action in cases related to money laundering. First of all, there is Enforcement Directorate, ED, which is under Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue, and it can investigate and confiscate properties under PMLA. Then Financial Intelligence Unit is a unit that is under Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance, that is responsible for collecting information related to money laundering. Okay, so these are the specialized agencies which would take action under PMLA. Similarly, PMLA also mentions that it would create an adjudicating authority, special courts, appellate tribunal. Okay, it permits the government to establish these special courts to adjudicate on cases related to PMLA. All right, that's about it. That's all you need to know about PMLA. Now let's shift our focus to topic number 2, which is PM-Vidyalaxmi Scheme. Now recently, Union Cabinet has approved PM-Vidyalaxmi Scheme, and the government has promised to allocate 3600 crores for this scheme between the period of 2024-25 to 2030-31. The scheme actually would benefit around 7 lakh fresh students. Okay. Now what is this scheme all about? You know, India wants that all of its youth is skilled, okay, highly skilled. Now, high level of skills come from higher education, okay, whether it's engineering, doctor, lawyers, everything. But the problem is that higher education institutions, some of the or most of the higher education institutions are unaffordable. All right, they're quite unaffordable. Therefore, many talented students are unable to pursue their dreams of these studying in these higher education institutions. Now, to make higher education institutions affordable for these talented students, government launched PM-Vidyalaxmi Scheme. Under this scheme, students who get admissions to quality higher education institutions are eligible for collateral-free and guarantor-free education loan. So they are eligible for education loans for which they don't have to provide any collateral, and government would take a guarantee on their loans. Okay. Now, let's talk about the features of this scheme. Okay. So the government would take 75% of guarantee on the loan taken by students, okay, for loans up to 7.5 lakh. Now, what does this guarantee means? Look, these loans would be given by banks to students, right? Now, banks, while giving loans to students, have also they also need to assess whether students would pay back these loans. Okay, they need to assess the risk of these loans. If they find that the students won't be able to pay back these loans, then that particular loan becomes risky for a bank. And if they think that the student will be able to pay back that loan, then that particular loan becomes less risky. Now, banks generally charge higher interest rates on risky loans and lower interest rates on non risky loans. Okay. So, if a particular student appears risky to a bank, the banks would give them a loan but would charge a very high interest rate. Now, that would make loans unaffordable for these students. Therefore, government has said that 75% of that loan amount would be guaranteed by the government. So, if a student is unable to pay back that loan, then 75% of that loan amount would be paid back by the government. Now, after this government guarantee, the risk on that student drops for that bank, and banks would charge low interest rates, so low that these loans would become affordable for these students, right? But this guarantee is applicable only for loans up to 7.5 lakhs. Okay. Plus, on these loans, government is also providing interest subvention of 3%. Now, what do we mean by interest subvention of 3%? Look, if you take a loan and pay back that loan through timely installments, okay, your installments for that loan is on time, then the bank would reduce your interest rate by 3%. So let's suppose you took a loan for 10% and you're paying back that loan on time. Then the bank would charge you 7%. Okay, so you would get 3% off. All right, this is what interest subvention is. And under PM Vidya Lakshmi, this is applicable for loans up to 10 lakh and for only those students whose annual family income is up to 8 lakh and who are not availing any other government benefit or any other interest subvention scheme for education or any scholarship from government. Okay, so only those students who are poor, less family income, not availing any benefit from any other government scholarship or interest subvention, they are eligible for this. Okay. Government is estimating that the interest subvention support will be given to 1 lakh students every year. All right. Some other important facts related to this. Well, government will provide these benefits under PM Vidya Lakshmi scheme to quality higher education institutes. Okay, not all higher education institutes or not all colleges or universities are eligible. Only quality higher educational institutes are eligible. Okay, and their quality would be assessed by government rankings, NIRF, National Institutional Framework rankings. Okay, so based on the rank of your college, it will be determined whether it's a quality higher education institution or not. All right, so this is the situation. Okay, so in this scheme, government will cover colleges, private colleges, top 100 colleges overall ranking, and top 100 in domain specific ranking like engineering, doctor, medical. State government institutions would also be there. All right, so these are the list. This is basically information about which higher education institutions are eligible under PM Vidya Lakshmi. All right, that's about it. And let's move on to our last topic of the day, which is H-1B visas. Now, Donald Trump is back in power, And throughout his election campaign, he has been very tough on immigration. He says that he will reduce the number of immigrants, migrants, and he would reduce illegal immigration. In fact, he's saying that he would completely stop illegal immigration, but he would be tough on immigration. America is for Americans. All right. Now, many people are fearful that he would also be tough on H-1B visas. So no one knows what would be Trump administration's stance on H-1B visas. Okay. Now, what are H-1B visas basically? So it is a program that allows American companies, American employers to hire non-immigrant workers, non-immigrant foreign workers in specialty occupations, highly skilled occupations requiring high level of skills, and it is compulsory that you at least have a bachelor's degree for getting these visas. So basically this visa program is for skilled individuals, highly skilled individuals, okay, like computer scientists, PhDs, or computer engineers, right? Highly skilled people, and these visas would be sponsored by the companies. Okay, so American companies would actually present a demand to USA government that we need these highly skilled people from India or China or Russia, okay, in our company. So this is given to only highly skilled people and for special high skilled jobs only. Minimum requirement is that you have a bachelor's degree. All right, remember, this program basically was introduced for American companies, because sometimes American companies have said that they need highly skilled workers, but these highly skilled workers are not available in American workforce. But these highly skilled workers are available in India. So we need to bring these people on H-1B visas. So H-1B visas were started. This program was started for American employers to hire or to fill up those higher skilled jobs which they think are not available in the American workforce, or those skills are not available in the American workforce. All right. Now, more about this visa. So, what are the features of this visa? So, H-1B visa is valid for 3 years. So, if an Indian gets a H-1B visa to work in Google, okay, that visa is valid for 3 years, and it can be extended one time for additional 3 years. So, maximum limit for one H-1B visa is 6 years. Okay. Now, if that particular worker working in Google wants to extend beyond 6 years, okay, if he wants to work for more than 6 years, then he has to issue a new visa. Okay. Now, there is no limit on the number of H-1B visas an individual can take, but one H-1B visa can last for 6 years, then he has to issue a new visa. Okay. Plus, if that particular person wants to shift from Google to Amazon, okay, it has been only 1 year working in Google, but he wants to shift to Amazon. Okay, in that case, he needs a new visa. All right. Now, H-1B holders can apply for green card or permanent residency in USA and for their family. This is an option available. Okay, and the reason why USA has opened these visas is that USA wants highly skilled immigrants to come to their country. USA is not averse to immigration, but they don't want poorly skilled people who won't contribute to their economy and would be a burden to their economy. They would allow highly skilled people to live in USA and apply for green card or permanent residency. Okay, so that is why H-1B visa holders find it easy to apply for permanent residency. Okay, now what is the situation of these visas in USA? Okay, again, the intent is to allow American employers to hire workers from abroad who are highly skilled. Now, in 1 year, USA will issue only 85,000 such visas. So there is a limit cap. 65,000 would be regular H-1B visas, and additional 20,000 visas are reserved for applicants with advanced degrees, masters, PhDs. Okay, so 65,000 for regular and 20,000 for very advanced degrees. Okay, so in total 85,000. Okay, now these visas are allocated on the basis of lottery system, but this limit of 85,000 is not applicable for those H-1B workers who are working in education institutions in USA, government research institutions in USA, or non-profit institutions. Okay, this 85,000 limit is not applicable on these people. All right. Now, why these H-1B visas are important for Indians? Okay, so let's talk about Indians and H-1B. US government data shows that Indians have been the majority of H-1B visa holders. Around 72.3% of H-1B visas in 2023 were taken by Indians, were given to Indians. So Indians have a lot to lose if these visas, their limit is reduced or these visas are scrapped. Okay, because more than 70% of these visas are given to Indians. Next in line is China. Second rank is for China, but it is a distant second rank. Okay, only 11.7% of Chinese get these visas. Now, the reason why Indians dominate over Chinese is because Indians have a better command over English language, and that is what is required in USA. Maybe that is the reason. But Indians rule the world as far as H1B visas are concerned. Now, as far as occupations are concerned, around 65% of computer related jobs are for H1B visas. So, around 65% of H1B visas are given for computer related occupations. Okay, so it is quite significant for India and people, Indians basically, who are looking for good opportunities in USA. Okay, and that's about it. That's all we'll cover in today's newspaper. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And please do not forget to revise this lecture. Take another 20 to 25 minutes and revise this lecture from our PDF file available on our Telegram channel. The thing is that through revision only, you'll be able to consolidate your current affairs. Okay, and that's very important. All right. On that note, I'll sign off with the promise of seeing you next time with next day's current affairs. Thank you.